What's up, guys? Welcome back to SledgeHammer Horror. I am Ken Sledge, and today I have from the band Jollies, Tommy Noir. Tommy, how you doing today, brother?
Doing really good.
Good to hear, man. Not only are you with Jollies, but in the past you have also put out records with bands such as Cafe Racer, Mr. Ma'am. So you are kind of a musical prostitute as well. What you got anything going on right now? I know things are kind of crazy with COVID and quarantine, but you got anything going on here in the future that you can let us know about?
So Jollies had recorded an album last, right before COVID happened, and it's completely finished. It just needs vocals, but we couldn't do recordings because all the studios were closed, and the one we were recording with were shut down. So it just put a complete break on the album. But yeah,
Sure.
the full length will be finishing soon, hopefully.
As soon as you get any updates, please let me know. I'm going to start doing a weekly update on Mondays about guests I've had in the past and future things that they're doing. So as soon as you have any updates, please let me know. And you guys make sure you're checking out Jollies. I love these guys. Also, on top of all the musical stuff, you are a big collector of horror media. I can see with the VHSs.
Yeah.
How long's that been going on for? Is that something you've always been into, or?
Yeah. So I started with VHS just when I was in high school. I used to go to this record store in Chicago called Reckless. It's hands down the best record store I've ever been to across our country. And one day when I was probably like 16 or 17, I saw this VHS on the ground and it said Christmas Evil. And I was like, what is this? I picked it up. I'm looking at it. It's like Santa Claus with an axe over his back. And I'm like, this is insane. This looks so crazy. Never heard of it. Had to buy it. And then after that, it just like went out of control and I got really into it.
That's awesome, man. It's always good to have hobbies, especially when it comes to horror movies, man. I absolutely love watching horror movies on VHS because especially when you get into the older horror movies and they do all the, digital re-enhancements now, there's a lot of things you see that look so bad compared to how they look on the VHS.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it could be a nightmare.
Yeah.
It can help, but in also some ways it definitely takes away at something.
The biggest example I bring up is Sleepaway Camp. When you watch the digitally redone Blu-ray, when you see the shadow in the door, you can totally see that it's the actor that played her cousin. It's not Angela Baker standing in the door.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. I love that movie. My partner and I got to hang out with Felissa Rose once, and she was really awesome. Such a really cool person. Loves her fans. Awesome person.
Oh, that's so cool, man. She seems like she's a really down-to-earth lady, too.
Oh, yeah, she's awesome. She's still active, is doing a bunch of cool stuff. We actually were just at the drive-in 2 weeks ago here in Florida. We just moved on here, and we saw her new movie. It was fantastic, and the name escapes me, so I feel really bad about that. But it was really fun, and to see it at a drive-in theater was great.
I'm gonna have to Google search it and go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll message you after this and let you know what it's called.
Oh, please, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But now let's talk horror, man. We are here to talk about the first horror movie that you ever seen, and the first one you ever saw was.
I'm gonna say The Exorcist. That was the first movie that really just scared the pants off me, and I mean, I couldn't sleep after watching that movie. I saw it at a very young age, and I was going to a Roman Catholic school, and I think I was probably like 7 or something. My dad just thought it'd be fun. He always liked showing me horror movies. He showed me that one, and I was praying before I went to sleep. I thought my bed was shaking. It just total nightmare after that. But it stuck with me. It's such a great film. It's so cool. And it still holds up to this day. It's great.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say. The thing about The Exorcist is it really has stood the test of time. It's still a very scary movie. And I actually had a guest recently that we did The Exorcist with as well. And one thing we talked about was that crucifix scene. And that scene is so, even all these years later, it's still, you can't I can't say we've desensitized to that scene. Every time I see that scene now, I still cringe and it still freaks me out, you know?
It's very aggressive.
Yes. So if you had to pick one scene of this movie you think affected you the most, what scene would it be and why?
Uh, I think when I was a kid, the scene that scared me the most is the part where you see the demon or the devil. I can't remember if it's a demon or a devil for like a glimpse, and you see it. And I remember the feeling I got in my body. It was just like, whoo, holy shit. You saw that little glimpse of that person, which is actually a woman. I can't remember her name, but she had the makeup on with those teeth. Terrifying image, but that scared me. I mean, the movie was scary, and it's like they threw that at you. It was nuts. I mean, that's what I think of when my first real scare.
That's a good one too. Let me ask you this. Now with The Exorcist, obviously it's a classic. Everybody loves The Exorcist. Are you a fan of the sequels of The Exorcist, or are you more just like with the original and that's it?
Well, that's actually interesting because Heretic is terrible. Pretty sure a lot of people agree with me. The second one, when the second one came out, they had to take it out of the theaters because people were laughing at the end of it. They thought it was funny, and then they had to redo the whole like ending or something, and it ended up costing them a lot of money, and the movie was a total flop. Now, part three, you wouldn't think the third sequel would be so great, and it was. It's totally scary. It's awesome. If you have Shudder, Joe Bob, Last Drive-In did a really good episode on part three of The Exorcist, and it was really cool.
Shudder is something I love. I absolutely love Shudder. I love Joe Bob. And while we're talking about Shudder and Exorcist, also the Cursed films they did about the Exorcist.
Yeah, I
really
watched
cool
that. I think the Poltergeist franchise is probably the most famous for being a cursed film. So many people died, and all the rumors around the film, having the dead bodies in that pool.
In the pool.
I mean, so much cool stuff and sad stuff too. And the second one, I can't remember the character's name, the old guy, the really scary guy. I mean, he was literally dying when they filmed that movie. So
Mr. Kane.
Mr. Kane. There you go.
Yeah. Oh, and it's I don't want to say it's funny, but like I personally think Poltergeist 3 is the best one of the original trilogy. And
one.
What's that?
Is that the one that takes place in the apartment building?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that one, and the ending obviously isn't the greatest because they had to just cut it together because of, unfortunately, Heather O'Rourke passing away. But I think that movie scared me just as much as any other movie growing up. You know, when she's at the mirror and it grabs her and pulls her up, like that scared the shit out of me as a kid, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't seen that one in a very long time. I really should revisit it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one that makes me still to this day a lot of jumps in it, but it's got a good story to it too. It's not really a slow burn. You know, it goes the whole movie.
Awesome.
So back to I always trail off, man. Back to The Exorcist. When we're talking about scenes that affected us with this movie, is there a certain scene that you think scared you? I know you said that you were talking about the demon, but is there one that just stuck with you that wasn't like really much of a scare that just stuck with you throughout the test of time?
I think, especially when you get older and you watch this movie and you have such a different perspective on it, when the character is starting to change and she comes down the stairs during the party and she just like stands on the ground, starts peeing and says some terrible thing or something, whatever. I think she says you're going to die up there. I mean, it's really creepy and eerie. And oddly enough, the guy who wrote The Exorcist was a guy who wrote comedies in Hollywood, a bunch of flops. And this was his first movie that was not a comedy. I can't remember his name. So really bad with names, but yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, there's so many scenes that are really creepy, and yeah, that's one that I think really starts the movie to get you like, oh man, this is gonna get crazy soon.
And the thing about The Exorcist too, and I've talked about this before, the amount of times this movie's been parodied, and to me, it's like I always go back to Nirvana. Kurt Cobain said he knew that they made it when Weird Al wanted to do a parody of one of their songs.
Yeah.
You know, And to me, like, I feel that same way with movies. You know, when you have all these different movies, and not just parodies, but movies that blatantly rip off The Exorcist, that's really a testament to how great this movie truly is.
And then Linda Blair did it herself with Repossessed with
Mhm.
Leslie Nielsen.
See, and it's, to me, like, Linda Blair kind of, you know, she gets a bad rep because she kind of went crazy after all this. But man, I couldn't imagine being a little girl filming this movie.
She did. She ended up doing a lot of cool culty stuff, exploitation kind of horror-y stuff in the 80s. Nothing that was on the level of The Exorcist, but she definitely has a big fan base. She never really quite did, you know, a big Hollywood career, probably because everyone hated that movie. Critics, people wanted to ban it. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. And for actors, it's a terrible thing.
Well, and you look at this movie, I mean, in my lifetime, I mean, I guess maybe The Ring, I mean, the Blair Witch Project had a lot of, you know, surrounding it, but nothing like The Exorcist. I mean, people were crying, throwing up, having heart attacks, leaving the theater early. Like, the movie, even before people, even me as a child, before I seen it, I knew the stigma that surrounded it before I had even seen the movie, which made it even scarier. Because the
Yeah.
first time I watched it, my mom shut it off. And my mom was not a person to shut movies off on me, but she shut it off. She's like, no, you're not old enough for this yet. You know?
Yeah.
So,
I didn't have that. My dad like wanted me to be scared, and he was really good at that. So I think it's important to see these things as you know, they're here as art, and not to just like throw them away as like this. Oh, they're terrible just because you don't like it. And I think that's what happened to them when they released it. And it's probably a bummer for everyone that was part of the team and the cast and the crew.
I'm sure the ones that are still around look back at it now and realize just what this movie's done for pop culture in general. 'Cause, I mean,
Yeah, and we're still talking about it. It was on that Shutter. Shutter is that new cursed
mhm.
TV show, cursed films. I mean, it still has an impact. It still scares people.
Right. And even though they're not all sequels or prequels or direct ripoffs, but I mean, look at every Exorcism movie that's come out. I'd even go as far as like even the newer The Autopsy of Jane Doe. It really does have an Exorcist feel to it, you know. And that's not a bad thing. I just think that again pays homage to how life changing this movie truly was. This is one of those movies that it wasn't a slasher, it wasn't, you know, your traditional horror movie at the time, but yet it set that precedent on what horror needs to be. I mean, you got to figure all these people in Hollywood are saying, "Wow, this movie's making people puke and cry and run." And how
Yeah,
can we top this? How can we get better than this?
yeah. I think the story was so good, and it kept you wanting more when you watched it. It wasn't a slow burner.
Mhm.
You just wanted to keep watching. Like, oh my god, it's getting crazier and crazier and crazier, and a great ending. And I think they won an audience for that. And all the stuff you hear about people dying and throwing up, it's a good way to sell tickets.
Yeah.
So, you know, you
And
put an ambulance outside the, you know, the theater. People are like, I need to see this. Kids are going to want to go. Parents don't want them to go. So, yeah, I think they succeeded in that.
oh, absolutely. And like I said, the only thing that ever came close in my lifetime was probably the Blair Witch Project. And I remember because we didn't have, you know, a lot of access to the internet when that came out. So there was the whole, is this real? Is it fake?
Yeah.
What's going on with this? And that alone made you want to go see the movie because you thought it might be real because found footage wasn't really a big thing at the time.
Yeah.
And like I said, we didn't have the internet to go research. And I'm not going to a library. Fuck that.
Yeah. And then you watch the movie in theaters and you have a headache because the camera's moving around. You're
Yep.
like, what happened? This is boring. It's kind of good. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. This is not related to The Exorcist, but your beautiful VHS collection. What is your favorite VHS that you own?
Favorite that I own. That's a hard question. This is just like a tiny portion of all the tapes we have. Shoot, I mean, I'll just pull one out. How about that? This is can you see it? It's called
Campfire Tales.
Yeah, this is an anthology. It's really cool. It's got Gunnar Hansen from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, it's a really good anthology. The stories are good. It's low budget, but they put a lot of heart into it. It's actually kind of hard to find on VHS. They made the same people that made that made another one called Freak Show, and Gunner is also in this one too. It's another anthology. It's a little
I
easier.
love anthology movies, man.
Then you gotta check these out. They're really freaking cool. Really, really funny stories, good stories, and some fun practical effects. I love practical effects, so this is the way to go if you're into that. Yeah, those are some of my favorites. It's hard to say, and I can look at it and I wouldn't be able to pick. There's too many good ones in there.
Sure. Well, and now I talked to you about your first horror movie. Now, as always, I go Scream. What is your favorite horror movie?
My favorite, I mean, maybe Night of the Demons.
Okay.
I mean, that movie is perfect. It's funny. I love horror comedies.
Mm-hmm.
I love how they made that movie. It's direct. It takes place on Halloween. I love horror that take place on holidays. I have like every single Christmas horror VHS that was ever released. That's my thing. So taking place on Halloween, and the characters are great. Linnea Quigley is freaking awesome in it. Great special effects, good music, cool story. It's funny, good one-liners. Yeah, Night of the Demons, maybe. I might say that's my favorite horror movie.
That's awesome. I always go with House. You know, that's
Oh, yeah. House is
love
great. So good.
You talk about horror comedies, man. That movie has so much emotion in it. Horror, comedy, love, heartbreak, despair. Like, it just, to me, it's the perfect movie. The only movie that could ever top it to me is Back to the Future, but sticking in the horror level here.
House had John Carl Buechler. I don't know if you know who he is.
He did, wait, he was in the movie?
No, he's the guy that did the special effects on House.
Okay.
He also
I know, like,
a bunch of stuff too. He directed Friday the 13th, Part 7. He's the one that got Kane Hodder to be Jason. Mm-hmm. He's directed a bunch of other stuff. Ghoulies 3. I love that movie.
Oh, nice. I was going to bring up Kane Hodder because he does some of the stunts in House too.
Yeah, he does. He's definitely in House. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool, man. So I always end these with a skull count. Back to The Exorcist. You're ranking it out of 0 to 5 skulls. What's your ranking of The Exorcist?
5. Absolutely. I mean, hands down, great story. I mean, we're still talking about it today. It's stand the test of time. I think everyone will agree on that.
Yeah, and it's one of the movies that I own. I'm a physical media person. And it's a movie that I think, like I said, the stigma around it alone, I didn't get to finish it as a kid. So the minute I was able to, I had to watch this movie. It was that movie that I just had to get my hands on.
Yeah, no, I think everybody growing up wanted to see it because everyone was talking about it at school. And I mean, they re-released it in theaters in the 2000s, I believe, early 2000s. And they had the extra scenes in it where she comes downstairs backwards. So that's really cool. I actually got to see it in theaters when they put it out.
See, I don't remember that. I must have missed that. But I live in a small town where they didn't play a lot of, hey, got the baby.
That's Stiv. Sorry.
There's someone in the box.
What are you doing? He's Stiv.
That's awesome, man. The one I have actually is the director's cut with the extended scenes in it. I had to get that one too. So I love when I watch director's cut. I love watching director's commentary, behind the scenes stuff. It's something that I'm a huge fan of as well.
Absolutely, me too.
Don't go anywhere. I got a couple more questions for you before I actually let you go. But everybody, thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate you coming on. Tommy, this has been awesome. And like I said, I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody, remember, stay what you are. Keep talking horror, and we'll see you guys soon.